KPIs in project management. You've probably wondered, what should I measure on my project? How should I measure it? Be aware that the PMI in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition has a section on page 93 that is dedicated to measurement. It's called the measurement performance domain. So I want to give you a quick reminder about this performance domain. In this performance domain, mention is made of KPIs. And what is a KPI? Well, let's take a look. It says key performance indicators for projects on page 95 are quantifiable measures used to evaluate the success of a project. There are two types of KPIs, leading indicators and lagging indicators. Leading indicators predict changes or trends in the project. If the change or trend is unfavorable, the project team evaluates the root cause of the leading indicator measurement and takes action to reverse the trend. Lagging indicators, on the other hand, measure project deliverables or events. They provide information after the fact. Lagging indicators reflect past performance or conditions. Lagging indicators are easier to measure than leading indicators. Examples include the number of deliverables completed, the schedule or cost variance, and the amount of resources consumed. Now, when you're taking a look at your specific project, you want to do what makes sense. You got to do what is smart. And smart means specific, meaningful, achievable, relevant, and timely. There is no point measuring what is not relevant to your project. You could measure things such as deliverable metrics, delivery, baseline performance, resources, business value, stakeholders, and forecasts. Deliverable metrics could be things such as information on errors, measures of performance, technical performance measures, and so on. Delivery could be your WIP, work in progress, lead time, cycle time, queue size. There are so many things to measure. When it comes to baselines, you could talk about start and finish dates, effort and duration, schedule variance, schedule performance index going into earned value. And when it comes to resources, we could talk about planned resource utilization compared to actual resource utilization. And we could talk about planned resource cost compared to actual resource cost, and so on. When it comes to business value, we could talk about benefit cost ratio, return on investment, ROI, NPV. And when it comes to stakeholders, my favorite, net promoter score, mood chart, morale, turnover. When it comes to the area of forecasts, we could talk about ETC, EAC, VAC, TCPI, on and on and on. There are so many things we could do, but I really want you to stay focused on making it relevant to your project. If it's not relevant, don't do it. And if it's just a measurement for measurement's sake, don't do it. We call that a vanity metric. A vanity metric is a measure that shows data but does not provide useful information for making decisions. Measuring page views of a website is not as useful, for example, as measuring the number of viewers. There's also one other definition I want you to be aware of, and that is the Hawthorne effect. And the Hawthorne effect states that the very act of measuring something influences behavior. So be careful. Take care. What are you measuring? Some people are measuring the amount of defects found by the team. Let's reward them based on the amount of defects. Well, think about it. If your team is in cahoots with the developers and testers in cahoots with each other, well, they're going to be planting some bugs. And guess what the testers are going to do? They're going to be reporting many bugs found so they can get those rewards. True story from a buddy Roy. So be careful what you're measuring. Now, to round this up, I really want to focus on a few KPIs, just a few, right, that you should consider depending on the nature and scope of your project. If you're working in the world of Agile, for example, some of the KPIs that you could use in an Agile environment are things like your sprint velocity, right? There is nothing wrong in measuring velocity. There's nothing wrong in understanding story points as it relates to your team in particular. Now, don't use this as a way of rewarding the team because that is useless. That is not what this is for. This is to understand what you're committing to and to be able to effectively predict, to become more intentional in how you make promises and commitments. Sprint burn down is another KPI. It tracks how much work is left to complete in the current sprint, allowing the team to adjust their efforts and meet their goals. That's a good one. Lead time is also a great one because lead time enables you to see the big picture, the full thing, how long it takes from the start of a project to the delivery of the final product. Cycle time, on the other hand, is the time it takes to complete a single work item. This is one that the person operating on that machine needs to be aware of. It helps to identify bottlenecks and optimize processes, so it makes sense to do that. Another one that people would say is a little bit subjective is agile maturity. This KPI, when done well, can assess the team's overall proficiency in using agile approaches, practices, and it helps to identify areas where additional training or coaching may be needed. Handle this one with care. Next is customer satisfaction. You could use a net promoter score to do this. You could use a chart of some sort of mood or elements around the customer satisfaction. And this measures the satisfaction of the project's end users with the final product. It helps ensure that the team is delivering value to the customers. Agile health is another one. Again, handle with care. But the KPI assesses the overall health of the team, the overall health of the project, and it tracks metrics such as team morale. So I talked about a mood chart. You could use that. Communication, collaboration, it is okay to measure those things. Is it a little bit subjective? Yes, it is, but it's better to have some metrics in agile health than zero. So find a way of doing this with sense and intentionality. Now, those KPIs are for agile. These KPIs that I'm about to show you could be used to track progress and performance from a more predictive standpoint. So let's jump into the predictive KPIs. Number one, schedule performance, SPI. SPI is great. I've used it on projects. It tells you how well you are performing. SPI is a measure of what did you promise, what did you get done, what was promised within the time frame, what did you actually get done, planned schedule versus actual schedule. Cost performance index. Earned value divided by actual cost. If you are able to measure this sensibly, it is not a bad one to use. Contrary to what a lot of naysayers tell me, well, Phil, earned value is dead. There's no point using earned value no more. Well, those people are actually the ones in the dark ages because cost performance index makes absolute sense when you have good data. Quality performance. This KPI measures whether the project is meeting quality standards or not. It assesses the quality of deliverables, adherence to specifications, and customer satisfaction. A great one to measure when you've got the right data. Scope performance. This KPI measures whether the project is meeting the defined scope or not. It assesses whether all the project requirements have been met or not. There are ways you can do this. You can use your requirements traceability matrix. You can use your WBS. There are many ways you could creatively do this. Stakeholder satisfaction. This KPI measures the satisfaction of stakeholders with the project's outcome, including the project team, sponsors, and customers. Again, we could use a net promoter score to do this. Risk management. Those KPIs measure the effectiveness of the risk management plan in identifying, assessing, and managing project risks. Rather subjective, but when done the right way, could lead to greater levels of insights. Team performance. This KPI measures the productivity and efficiency of the project team. It assesses factors such as communication, collaboration, and individual performance. Again, it is one you have to handle with care. And that, my friends, has brought us to the end of KPIs in project management. If you're looking for help, clarity on any of these, go on down to the website. It's pmanonymous.com, exactly as it's spelled, pmanonymous.com. Thank you very much, my friends. Big thank you to my friend who asked the question, Phil, talk about KPIs. And don't forget, check out those pages that I mentioned in the PMBOK Guide 7th edition. Bye for now.